Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take, on the various miniatures I've been painting for the games we cover here on the channel. Although it has only been a week, I believe, this time, and don't have as many miniatures to show off as usual, but I decided to do an early new Getting Stuff Painted because I've been mucking around with the newest range of contrast paints from Citadel. Some of the new colours here. There's a mixture here, some of these I've painted before the new Citadel colours released, and a few of them are using the new colours. Now, advance warning, I'm probably not going to remember the names of all the new ones. It's still going to have to get used to them, but I can at least talk about my experiences using a few of them so far. I picked up maybe half the new colours, and I've used maybe 2/3 of them at present, so we can talk about quite a few of them with some of the miniatures I've got on display here, and talk about how they compare to the existing colours, and maybe a brief mention of some of the new shade washes they do, although I haven't got the new non-oil and Agri Reserve shade. I've seen some examples of what those are like. They just, you know, I shouldn't comment on them unless I've tried them for myself, but from what I've seen, no. So anyway, as per usual, pausing to throw balls for my dog because she's very impatient when I record these. But we'll be going from left to right, covering a big heap of Batman the Miniature Game, some Gotham City Chronicles, a little bit of Fallout Wasteland Warfare, and a little bit of third-party Marvel Crisis Protocol. So this is nothing like in the order in which I painted them, but let's start with Carmine Falcone, the big base miniature from the Batman-themed starter set for the Miniature Game. He and all the models, or most of the models, the rest of the organised crime stuff, have already been in a battle report, but specifically I can talk here about some of the new contrast paint colours I used. I used some of the standard fair ones that I always talk about, Basilicanum Grey, Volupus Pink, a little bit of Snakebite Leather, but the new ones I used here are on the light and the carpet. So the light, although it has had a wash over the top, is Imperial Fist Yellow, I think they're calling it. Very different to Yandan Yellow. It's a much thicker yellow, and that's also what I used because if you've seen the official paint job for this miniature, this is the big window from the Iceberg Lounge that Carmine stays in. So it's got light reflecting in from here, and the official paint job obviously does a much better job of this, but I decided just to try and have the light shine a little bit on here. So that's what I used on the Basilicanum Grey here, just as kind of like a wash on top, and same with bits of the carpet that are in line, and a little bit of the side of Falcone here as well, just to look like light is coming in from the imaginary window that's meant to be there. The Imperial Fist Yellow, or whatever it's called, the Imperial Yellow, it's a lot thicker than Yandan Yellow. It applies in a lot thicker, less streaky, much more bright, but it lacks definition. That is what I'll say. With the Yandan Yellow, you've got those deeper oranges that seep into the cracks and create shade. I don't think we have an example here. I don't think I used the Yandan Yellow at all here. No, I didn't, sadly. But the Yandan Yellow, it adds definition. It isn't great on larger areas, but if what you're looking for is like a thick yellow coating that you can then add a wash on top, the new yellow they're doing for this new release of contrasts does seem to be pretty good for that. But you do have to add definition on top, like dry brush a lighter layer, do a new wash on top. You know, you have to put a little bit more work in, which is not the point of contrast, but that's just how I found it. The carpet, I think it's called Storm Fiend Blue. It's kind of like the blue that has raised crystalline edges almost. I'm not sure if this was the best application for it. The rug that he's standing on, if you look up the official paint job for this, it's the rug is painted as if it's marble, which doesn't make any sense because it's definitely a rug, but whatever. So it came out very, very similar to Talisar Blue. I'm not really noticing much of a difference. Maybe with a wash on top, or it looks as if you've had a wash on top, so it's slightly darker than Talisar Blue. But it doesn't look bad or worse. It doesn't look any different to me. And I also had that impression with another new blue they've done, which I think is called Usherman Blue, the one that's named after the Elder unit. That's not here being used here. That's been used here. But I had much the same opinion, that it basically just looks like Talisar Blue with a wash. But either way, I didn't like how this looked when I first painted it up, which is why I decided to try and add the shading, just to try and add some character to it, because I didn't like how it looked. I think it helped a little bit, but I'm trying to imagine what it would look like if I use a Yandan Yellow instead, and I feel like it'd probably be better. And you know what, I've just realised that isn't Volupus Pink. I'm pretty sure that is Sigvard Burgundy, which is another new contrast, and I like how that looks. Although it's not that great here. I tried to add some of the yellow highlight to it just on the corner as well, but it doesn't look great. But you know, from a distance, from that kind of distance, it's not too terrible, I think. So next in line is Colin Farrell Penguin from the Batman. This is actually the first miniature I used some of the new contrast paints on. I also have finally chucked out my old Guilliman Flesh. He was done prior to me chucking out. The mixture was getting bad towards the end of it, so the skin tones have not been working out recently. This is the one I did, and the twins that we'll talk about in a second, where I was like, yeah, okay, this paint needs replaced. I'm trying to get every last penny of value out of it, and I'm paying for it in the mixture just not being right. But anyway, this miniature, this was the first one I tried a couple of the new contrast paints on. I used Black Legion for the stairs, although I then dry brushed some lead belcher because it's meant to look like metal, black metal. And then I used, I think it's called like Garagax Sewer or something. It's kind of like a very, very rusted metal grating colour. It would also do for an alternative brown, I think. I did that on the grating, hoping that the lighter bronzish tones would show up. Hasn't really, and I'm not sure if that's down to the miniature I used it on or if that's down to the paint. The Black Legion, as opposed to Black Templar, which is the black contrast I've used basically forever. Do we have an example of that here? No, we don't actually. That's a shame. But actually, I'm sorry for skipping ahead, but this is Orphan from, as in Cassandra Cain, from Gotham City Chronicles. This is probably the only example I can give you, but she needs to be in focus for that. Please comply. There we are. Her hair is done in Black Templar. Her bodysuit, costume, whatever, is done in the new Black Legion. So the existing contrast paint, the Black Templar, is definitely thicker but lacks definition. I would say this new one, Black Legion, has more definition and lighter highlights on the raised edges. Has a bit more, like it has the slightest hint of grey, and I think that actually adds to the detail a bit better. That's also Imperial Fist Yellow, or whatever the new yellow contrast is called, highlighting the other parts of her armour as well. So I guess we've already talked about that in advance, but we'll still work our way just real quick to talk about the Penguin. Used a bunch of Basilicanum Grey on his shirt, and then just used non-contrast paints to try and do that checkered look that his waistcoat has in the movie. Try and match the official paint job. I think that's a mixture of Genestealer Hide and Calgar Blue, but didn't really work out that great. I don't have the fine detail for lines that thin, but he was a good one to experiment on. I kind of regret doing the lead belcher highlight. I should have just left the black, honestly, and I think it will look just fine. Alright, so let's quickly talk about the twins. I forget which one is twin 1, twin 2 as I knock the whole table a little bit, and then the Mafia, that's so hard to say, I can't say it. Mafia Thug, there we go. The remainder of the Batman themed starter set, so with these, like Penguin, Falcone and these three, that's the entire box done now. I didn't really use any new contrast paints on these three, so we'll just talk about them real quick. This is Black Templar Basilicanum Grey with a dry brushing of the fang over the top to give them that kind of reflective look of their jackets. That is Volupus Pink for their shirt, Nazrite Yellow for the gold chain that hasn't really picked up that well. Guilliman Flesh, and they're twins, so same, literally the exact same. He's just in a slightly different pose for this twin right here. Then for the Mafia Thug, there we go, didn't do it that badly that time. Basilicanum Grey for his jacket. Black, actually you know what, that might be Black Legion, because I'm just noticing that it does have quite bright grey kind of lines to it, so I think that actually is Black Legion. I've been quite enjoying using that as opposed to Black Templar, so I think that's it, although I'm not 100% sure. You know what, we can compare to her hair real quick. As weird as that sounds, yeah, I think it is. So that is actually Black Legion, but the rest of it is just old contrast paints. Ultramarine Blue for the bag and his tie. He has no official paint job, so I was just winging it and decided, like, what would mafioso types wear? That'll do nicely if nothing else. Last two miniatures from the Batman miniature game this time around is the two new backup reinforcements for Two-Face crew, Big John and I think it's just called the Assassin or the Cleaner. Either way, Big John, I opened up a new pot of Guilliman Flesh and applied it in the exact same way as I always do, but you can already hopefully see the difference between a freshly opened pot of the stuff that's mixed correctly as opposed to the skin tones on all the miniatures we just looked at who were done prior to that. Skeletal Horde, that's a new pot of Skeletal Horde as well actually. Used on his trousers, snakebite leather for the shaft of the pickaxe, just the base coat for the bag with a aggressor shade wash over the top. And you know, I think I used that new sewer colour on his boots, I don't quite remember, but other than that I didn't use any of the new colours on him. That's Militarum green for his flat cap, his grandpa flat cap, with a little couple of lines of Blood Angels red over the top, just to try and make it sort of look a little tartan. I like the miniature. I hate his name, but I like the miniature. And then for the assassin, who's very fun, again, I don't think I used any new contrast paints. It was a bunch of Basilicanum grey with grey sear, which everything is based in, for the pinstripes on his trousers. Snakebite leather for his bag, Gryph-hound orange for the wall, well, parts of the wall he's leaning against. And a little bit of blood for the blood god to show that he's kind of hiding that something nasty happened back here, because he is a cleaner and he has a rule where I think if any friendly kills someone within 8 inches, he kind of helps them in some way. Forgotten offhand in what way he helps them, but the rule is called like cleaning up the scene. And that's how I imagine him currently posed, like he's standing all nonchalant while something horrible happened back there and he's got his hand in his pocket because he's got a concealed weapon. So yeah, I like that miniature. Those are very fun looking. Like Two-Face has some really fun looking thugs. It's a shame that his objective deck is so terrible. So we have a little trio from Gotham City Chronicles. We've already just talked about Cassandra Cain, Orphan, but this guy is also called Orphan. I'm not familiar with him. I vaguely know of Cassandra Cain. She's Bruce's adopted daughter at this point, because he just likes collecting orphans. But this is a villain version who I kind of just followed what I did for Moon Knight quite recently, the Moon Knight in the suit, Mr. Knight. So if you want the specifics, you can go listen to me talking about that, but there's no new contrast work here, just Basilicanum grey and a bunch of washes, and that is my phone binging at me, and some Lead Belcher Silver and Blood for the Blood God on his katana as well. I'm going to go quickly answer that text just in case it's important, but then we'll talk about Scarecrow. Alright, apologies for that. As I was saying, Scarecrow. Also mostly the old colours for what I've been using. Snakebite leather, Skeletal Horde. I think for the red parts of his costume I did use the new red, but I'm going to talk about that when we get to Wanda in a second, because I think that's the best example of it, so we'll just wait. Blood for the Blood God for the blood on the scythe. Snakebite leather for the haft here. I think again that might be parts of the new, whatever it's called, Garagax syrup on his leggings, but I don't quite remember. But I was doing this up so I have all the villains ready to potentially do the villain campaign of Gotham City Chronicles. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to, because the viewership is a little low. We'll see, and it's an investment of like 4 videos or 4 or 5 to do the full scenario, so we'll see. Oh, next we have, as I almost knock over my water here, we have a single miniature from Fallout Wasteland Warfare. We have the broken Securitron that I talked about way back when I assembled him. I showed him on camera, I think. He snapped, and because they are so top heavy, could not get him to securely get back on the wheel. So instead I turned him into a destroyed Securitron, and he is actually going to be in the second season of Fallout Wasteland Warfare, which started last week. So we will be seeing him in the series, and I did use a couple of the new contrast paints here, which is why I also wanted to talk about him. That is one of the new greens, and my goodness, is that a vibrant green, a neon green. I think it's the Striking Scorpion one. There's like 4 new green contrasts, so I'm never going to remember which is which, but I think that's the Striking Scorpion one. It's the most vibrant of the bunch, and it's kind of like the perfect colour for that kind of cactus plant. It's just Volupus pink for the flower on top. But like I mentioned, I think I used the Asherman blue on him. I think I did. It was either that or the Stormfiend blue with the wash on top, and then I ended up picking out some darker bits with Ultramarines blue, like down here. And my feelings when I did it was, this is just Talisar blue with an extra step, like the wash, or with a one less step rather, because it looks like the wash had already kind of been applied, although I did do Agrax over the top to make him look dirty and destroyed. So I don't really see much of a difference. I haven't done like side-by-side comparisons of this compared to something that's very heavily done in Talisar blue, like like one of the Captain Americas from Crisis Protocol. They have a lot of Talisar blue on them, I can't think of anyone else offhand for Batman. Well, some of the ice effects on like the Mr. Freeze bases, that's got a lot of Talisar blue on it. But it didn't look much different to me. I couldn't really tell a difference. As for like thickness and whatnot, it had the same streaking issues with these like flat sections. So I don't think it was any thicker either. But it needs a bit more testing. I'm going to use that one on a few more things. And going forwards, maybe work out what it does different to Talisar blue. So last but not least, this time around we have a third-party sculpt for Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, for Crisis Protocol, specifically obviously based on the Multiverse of Madness when she's using the Darkhold, which is the book here, and she has her weird witch hands and whatnot. But I wanted to talk about this last because I feel like this is the best example, a decent example of some of the new contrast colours that Citadel have done, showing their best. To quickly talk about the ones that are not new, I used Flesh Terror Red for her costume, and then did Black Templar over the bits that are meant to be black, so that's why they still look a little bit red. And that is Snakebite Leather for her hair. But the important parts are the tentacles or demon energy or whatever this is meant to be, and the base, which I think turned out really, really nice. So my original plan, which is what I worked with, is I went from a dark colour to a light colour. I think I started with Flesh Terror Red, and then I switched while it was wet, mixed in a little bit of Blood Angels Red, which is the existing Citadel Red, and then when we get to the tips here, I used the new one, which is called Baal Red, B-A-A-L, you know, the Blood Angels guy, or tank, I forget. Anyway, it's been a while. And Baal Red is fantastic. It is a lovely, super thick, bright, warm red, such that I kind of went over I spread it further down. You can't even really tell that there's been Blood Angels Red on here. You can probably tell there's Flesh Terror Red because that's like a darker red, and you can tell it's starting to mix here. And this is mixing into one of the two new purple contrasts. I actually have both the two new purple contrasts. The one I'm using here, I think, is called Levadon Purple. That might be the other one. This is obviously not the super pale one. This is the very, very vibrant Joker-esque suit color, I would say. And I just did that on the base, and again, while the initial area was wet, just mixed it in, and it blended really well. It really does look so bright, like there's a portal under there, and these tentacle things are coming up as Wanda uses the evil book, which actually, like, this is a really, really nicely done 3D sculpt. There is actually like pictures of a Scarlet Witch in there and stuff. Very, very well done sculpt. Found it on eBay, in case anyone's interested, from a Scottish seller. But yeah, I love this purple. I hate Shiloh's purple, as I've talked about many times before. It's a terrible purple. This new one is great. It's probably a little bright for some applications, but you can tone that down. It's easier to tone a colour down than it is to tone it up, for me anyway. So I love how that turned out. The Baal Red you're going to be seeing more of for sure. I'm going to be using the Baal Red for like the new Harley Quinn and her Harlequin thugs that I did an unboxing of recently. I think that'll be perfect for them, along with the Black Legion contrast. The Levadon Purple, it'll be used for any future Jokers, I think. I'm pretty sure that'll turn out better than the old Shiloh's Purple. Shiloh's Purple will still have a place, but the theme within a lot of the new contrast paints Citadel is doing is definitely, they're more vibrant, but that does come at a cost of being less shady. Like they don't do automatic shading as much as the base contrast paints, like here for instance. Although I have been experimenting on a model you'll see next time by like applying the Baal Red and then using one of the new shades they did. So I'll talk about more. I was going to talk a little bit about the new shades today, but I guess we'll save that for the next getting stuff painted. But Baal Red plus the, I think it's called Corn Berserker Red, Corn something, their new red shade instead of Carlsberg Crimson, which is their old red shade. That combined with Baal Red creates a very nice finished effect, and we'll be seeing a lot of that next time because I've been experimenting with it. Baal Red by itself also just looks fine, but I think using that wash in crevices just gives it that little bit of extra definition, but still keeping the really vibrant red that makes it stand out more than Blood Angel's red contrast. But that's my opinion. Anyway, still got more colours to experiment with. We'll need to just wait and see as we go, but that's the fun part about talking about stuff that's been painted, when we get to talk about the new paints as well. So expect more of that next time. Definitely painting up more Batman stuff right now. Beyond that, I'm honestly not sure. It'll just be whatever I feel like basically, and anything I can find that's an excuse to try out some of the paints I haven't tried yet. I've been considering bringing back painting videos just to use the new paints on camera, but it's also a case of trying to find something that would use a lot of them. I kind of wish I'd done it for that now, with hindsight obviously. But anyway, if you want to show me what you've been painting, feel free to do so on Twitter. The link to my Twitter is below. And if you would like to show support for the channel, please do subscribe. And if you want to go above and beyond, consider becoming a member or a Patreon backer, or pressing the thanks button on the window right now that you're watching. Thank you very much for doing so, either way. Hope that was informative and inspires you to get painting. So far, I recommend most of the new contrasts, but some of them don't seem different enough. And I just realised I didn't talk about the new whitewash they did. I think it's called Soul Blight Grey. I tried using that on Orphan. It doesn't look like it does anything. It doesn't do enough compared to like Null Oil or even Apothecary White, which is a terrible contrast paint for the most part. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. I think we'll probably see some more of that. Yeah, we're definitely going to see some more of that because I'm going to paint up the new Azrael. So yeah, I'll have much more to say about Soul Blight and Apothecary White next time. And on that cliffhanger, ... enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Ta for now.